Welcome everyone to our most favorite session at the PFL, Lunch and Learn. Welcome, Jérôme. I even read stuff about you to prepare this. So for the people who are joining us online and haven't heard of Jérôme, he's a PhD student in the lab of Professor Francesco Mondada. He's writing his thesis on mobile robotics,
on debugging and
very other intelligent stuff. What I wanted to say is I want to remind, and for who doesn't know, Jérôme won a prize. And the prize had about 20 nominations from 400 participants. So this is big, and the prize is called the best teaching student assistant. Today, Jérôme will talk about the use of ChatGPT in one of the robotics courses and if this has any effect on student learning. Welcome to the session and enjoy.
Cool. Thanks a lot. So cool to have you, everyone, here for this session. So yeah, I will talk about exploring the impact of ChatGPT in robotic courses. Does it really help students to learn? So thanks also to Laila, Helam Bamsi, Francesco Mondada, and Gin Bambacher for this study because we run with them. And so thank you very much to that. And so, you know, we are faced to a big challenge. Normally, why I can not big challenge about new AI tools that we are faced today. So the field of computing now it's rapidly evolving with AI tools and really have a different tournure in French, but different challenge with AI. And so they can assist you in code generation, in debugging, and so on, and significantly altering how developer operates, but also for education. So while it's really provide an interesting opportunities for education, for example, ID generation or debugging and so on. Us, a little bit educator, teacher, researcher, and so on, are a little bit worried about a little bit how to use it or how how it is used for the students and if students really learn with that. So in the literature, however, we have still some, there is really some scars of empirical study about the learning of the student and how they perform and how they really learn. And we have to have a little bit more guideline and so on for the students to give them. And so this is why we address this gap with two research questions on how does the use of ChatGPT when solving programming-based practice tasks impact students' performance and learning outcomes, and in what ways do students use ChatGPT and how do different types of ChatGPT use influence performance and learning. So so we have a nice context for the study because we have a course given by Francesco Mondada, which is the basics of mobile robotics course. And this is really a hands-on course that requires students to really engage in programming, to explore robotic navigation, including path planning, motion control, vision, and so on. And so essentially, students are tasked with coding and to solve multiple problems for the robotics. And so we have 64 students that were volunteered to participate to this study, and so we divided these 64 students in two groups. One using ChatGPT. Oh, so 40 was freely used ChatGPT during the practical lab, and the other 24 was solving the task without ChatGPT. And so during the session, they were required to implement a particle filter for robotic localization, really virtual, directly in computing and in Python. And so the students have tackled to solve five Python tasks designed really to challenge and enhance their understanding of the material of the course.
You just say the 64 were not, that's not the whole course. That is
Exactly.
how many are the
yeah,
course?
we have 205 students, and only so for the next study would be better to have a bigger sample, but we have 215 students on the course, and only 64 were willing to participate to the study.
If you're answering a question about this anyways, why such a difference between the numbers?
Exactly. So there is 40 in a ChatGPT group to know a little bit how is the usage. We would like really to have a better sample of the usage of ChatGPT, to know a little bit how they prompt and so on. And it's exactly the study. So we have the practice lab where we collected, so the teaching assistant and so we collected the task and we scored the task. Hey. And also we collected the prompts of ChatGPT inside that, and to see a little bit the usage. So to see the performance, we have the practice lab that we collected the task and we scored the task. And for the learning, we have a pre-test and post-test, just to know the learning. Just to be careful, we have used ChatGPT 3.5. I mean, all the students have used 3. We verified that they use ChatGPT 3.5, then that's the 4. And so the pre-test was just to know the prior knowledge about the content of the course, and post-test was like a small mini exam to know if they they learn about a little bit the practice lab session. And really the practice lab session, it's a usual exercise that we use for the course. And that's so we divided in 2 groups. They use Jupyter Notebook, and they have to tackle 5 Python tasks. Now go directly to the results. We have implemented just a linear regression model with standardized variable to evaluate really the impact of the interaction between ChatGPT use or not, with also the pre-test on just the performance, on just the practice lab here. So the model here explains a significant proportion of the variance in the practice lab session with p significance. And so I represent like that. So for ChatGPT use on the performance on the practice lab session, they have a significant better score for those who use ChatGPT than the other, with a p-value that is significant. The bar just here show the confidence interval, just to let you know. And so for just the significant. For the pretest, there is no significant effects. But however, for the pretest, the interaction between pretest and ChatGPT use, there is a significant effect. It's a little bit tricky to understand here, but I will explain a bit better. So they have a negative estimate value. So what this means is that the student with really lower pretest compared a little bit to the mean. So it's negative value with negative interaction. So the people who have lower pretest will perform better with ChatGPT than with higher pretest. So yeah, it's a bit tricky that, but yeah. So people who have lower prior knowledge will perform better with ChatGPT than the high prior knowledge. So it was a little bit that the first result on performance, but it's what we want. It's also about the learning. Because, okay, they perform well with ChatGPT during the practice lab, but the learning after, they really learn something. And here we have done a three-way of interaction, a little bit more tricky to understand, but so we have the three-way way of interaction, and we will look on each item. Yeah, it's all standardized variable, so we can really compare all of the variables. So there is yeah, no significant effect on intercept, but there is a marginal yeah, significant difference for the pretest. There is no significant for practice lab, but for ChatGPT use, and also the interesting one, that means that there is no effect of ChatGPT use, so the people who use ChatGPT doesn't perform better than no ChatGPT. So that is interesting, even if it's not significative for that. For the practice lab, there is no significant effect. However, for the pretest, with ChatGPT use, there is significant better performance. So what does it mean? So students with higher pretest score perform better on the post-test using ChatGPT, but the finding also suggests that the students with lower pretest score, so with lower pre-knowledge, perform worse in the post-test using ChatGPT. You are still with me? Perfect. So that was one of the results. Also a marginal.
Can we go back to that again? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Because that takes a while, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So here there is a significant difference for the interaction between pretest and ChatGPT use, meaning that if you have really a higher pretest score here, positive, you will have with ChatGPT use, you will have better post-test, so learning on the with ChatGPT.
And if you had a lower pretest score, because then you had a
Negative.
better effect of using ChatGPT on performance. And what does it mean, that lower score for the learning then?
And so for the learning would be the inverse, so it will not perform well with the ChatGPT.
Okay, so here we do see.
But I will explain perhaps, yeah. So here it's a little bit yeah, tricky.
But how big are these effects? I mean, okay, you have some significance values, the sample is small, huh? You
Yeah, it's
have
really small.
20 people who
Yeah,
didn't
and
use
divided by 3
the effect, is it big? Because I mean,
effect size.
yeah, if they don't learn, no, if they don't have if they don't learn having less previous knowledge they learn, but they don't perform better on post-test. But if the effect size is small, then it's not a harm, right?
Yeah, exactly. So here, yeah, we just have an exploratory result, and yeah, the effect size we have to still accumulate. Yeah.
May I know how you operationalize learning, basically? What criteria did you consider?
Yeah, so it was the concept of the course on the post-test was really to like a small exam, you know, we put some sample of understanding of the practice lab, what we do also for the exam.
Sure.
And just significant positive interaction. Also here we have marginal significant difference for practice lab, and for interaction between pretest, practice lab, and ChatGPT use, we have also marginal significant difference. Just to perhaps better visualize, and like that you will perhaps have better view. We have put some graph that I hope that it's more clear for the 3 way of interaction. So we have for each panel different score for the pretest. So the mean is really the average of the students. Just mean minus 1 standard deviation, it's just lower prior knowledge. And then a pretest with mean plus 1 standard deviation, so it's mean higher prior knowledge for the students. And so we plot the performance of the for the practice lab and the learning, so the post-test. And so we have seen that for students with low prior knowledge, they have a positive correlation. So the no ChatGPT, they have positive correlation between the practice lab and the learning, meaning that if I vulgarize a little bit, if someone with low prior knowledge within ChatGPT, they will not learn with the practice lab. But without ChatGPT, they will learn, like this positive correlation and negative correlation for GPT.
So perhaps you have to say that the performance is the correction of the exercise.
Exactly,
So
for the practice lab.
You have been evaluating the quality of the result that they handled at the end of the exercise, which is the horizontal axis, which is the performance. So between bad and good exercise results, and on the other axis you have to learn.
The learning, exactly. So really about the practice lab, and I have just here the standardized practice lab score. Exactly. For the mean, they have again a positive correlation for no ChatGPT, but a negative for with GPT for the performance. And now for the high prior knowledge, so performance in practice lab session, it's not really correlated with the post-test, but we see that there is on average higher post-test for GPT. So for higher prior knowledge, GPT will perform better, like we have seen before, but not for the 2 previous. But perhaps let's take a break here to better. So here's I will give you, but to put to break down a little bit. So we have seen in practice lab that the use of ChatGPT improve performance. So they improve the exercise, but for the learning, simply using ChatGPT for the exercise did not link really to improve learning, and especially for those with lower prior knowledge, that we have seen that there is not a negative correlation for those who use ChatGPT during the exercise, during the practice lab session, and they will not learn especially on that.
Can I ask, is
Yeah.
the learning task, the pre-test and the post-test, are they the same as what you practice in the practice lab? Is that all the same type of activity?
So the practice lab, they really have to code to implement you mean, yeah, the activity, the conceptual concept of the course. And the post-test was really some QCM to know if they understand the principle of the course, of the.
But in principle, the idea is that whatever you have to do at the end is learned through that process that goes on in the practice lab.
I didn't get it, Francesco.
So, yes, the practice lab was a practice lab to train the understanding of the particle filter. We did the pretest on the concept of particle filter, and we did the
Process
protest
on the particle filter.
on
Yeah, always the same. Sorry, on the same
So
subject.
the pretest and the protest is really on the concept, and the practical lab is really a coding exercise that allow you to dig into the particle filter implementation, why it's done,
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and try to understand a little bit better the concept of particle filter by implementing them and by running them. So it's
Exactly.
a practical exercise to train the concept that has been seen in the course.
Thanks for the clarification. Yeah. And so these results that I show you was a little bit. There is multiple results, and we have seen that for example, high prior knowledge, they learn a little bit better with ChatGPT, but with lower knowledge, prior knowledge with pretest, they have different learning, and really they didn't learn with ChatGPT. So is it independently of the usage of ChatGPT or not? And it's exactly what we want to learn now. It's what is the usage of ChatGPT during the practice lab, and if they benefit for the learning dependently of the usage. And so we have collected all the prompts of the students during the practice lab. So what they prompt to ChatGPT for their own exercise. And so we classify them in three categories. So there is by iteration, of course, with the teaching assistants. We have done inter-rater reliability, and we have three categories that have been categorized as development of solution. So the prompt was about just the student want to know the solution. Can you give me the solution of this task, or the fully of the task, or just a part of the task? Understanding concept and code. They ask about particle filter, how is it works, and so on. And debugging, just about solving their own error. And so we classify all the prompt of the students, and we arrived to categorize in a three category the students. So the 40 students would categorize in three categories. One, conceptual explorer. So the 15 students was considered as conceptual explorer, where they have a higher percentage of understanding concepts, code, prompts. 11 students was considered as practical developer, where a high percentage of development of solution. They ask a lot about just developing the task. Sorry? Lazy developers. And debuggers, that we 12 students were considered as debuggers, where they have a lot of prompt about debugging to resolve the coding error.
Can you say a bit how you classified them into these three groups?
Yeah, so we take really each prompt and we do the percentage of the prompt about just the three category. The categorization was 86% of the prompt. The other 14% that was not in this category was just hello, I'm Jérôme, can you help me?
Yeah.
And so on. But otherwise, all the other prompts we can categorize in these three
Yeah,
categories.
the three, yeah, so you have 2 times 3, so it was not clear.
Yeah,
Sorry.
clearly.
So there are 3 types of prompts that I can totally see the table. Student, how many times did they use this type of prompt? But then how do you aggregate that to a pattern of use that you attribute to a person? Like, I am a conceptual explorer. How did you identify that it's actually these three patterns
Yeah,
that you're
it's 3
interested in?
per 10.
But how did you
And
define them?
the number of each of them, the percentage that they have over their prompt. So I have done 10 prompts and have 90% of developing a solution. We have done a k-means clustering.
What?
A k-means clustering. And so we cluster them as on how the percentage of prompt I've done on developmental solution, addressing the concept art in debugging. And so it was the cluster gives 3 categories of students, and it's classified in the 3 categories. It's more clear, or?
Yeah, because that is often a very difficult
true.
task to find these patterns, because then you have multiple solutions. Either you want more patterns, you want less patterns, you want to explain well the initial raw data, if we can call it like that. You want to be sure to put people in one, you know, how much uncertainty you accept.
Yeah.
So this is
There is a clear distinction for the 3 categories. So there's 3 categories that we find with just the clustering, and it was these 3, and it doesn't differ for the pretest. So they have really some comparable cluster, and then so with these 3 cluster, we see how they perform and how they learn, again with the practice lab session and the post test. And so again, it's complicated. It's a bit to see here, but we have done a regression again, a linear regression with standardized variable. And so we have take the practical developer as a reference, and the performance has here for the output and here for the learning. So there is a significant difference for the intercept, but not for the learning. But what is the most important here, it's for the concept and debugger, how they perform. And so for the conceptual explorer, they perform as well as the practical developer. But for the learning, they really outperform, and they really have a significant value for the conceptual explorer for the learning. And what about the debuggers? They outperform also compared to practical the performance. So the debuggers have really high score on the practice lab, but not especially, and worst on marginal on the learning. And so we can see that there is, dependently on the usage, they have so different score on the practice lab and on the learning. And here is just the summary that practical developer on average perform really high compare of no ChatGPT, that's clear, but we want to see the usage between just ChatGPT user. And for the conceptual explorer, they outperform for the post tests, what I have said, and debugger, significant difference for the practice lab, but marginally significant for lower post test score again. Just also we have compared, we have done multiple regression, linear regression, but here it was just really the comparison between the ChatGPT usage. We have done also linear regression with no ChatGPT. I don't present here, but they all, of course, outperform the practical developer, conceptual explorer, and debugger of non-ChatGPT user for the performance. And for the learning, like I have said, conceptual explorer was better for the learning than non-ChatGPT, but debugger was a little bit worse. Just quickly now about qualitative analysis of the ChatGPT use. So what they really do inside each cluster, perhaps it go with the question of Jessica about what they really prompt inside each cluster. So for the conceptual explorer, they ask really a lot about how the particle filter works, how do we interpret the prints, how I do not understand why we use cumulative. So really understanding more the content of the course. For the practical developer, they really ask about implementing the following task, and really, 60 really like that. But for the debuggers, what they really did, I believe that they will really debug in a problem-solving way, but in fact, it was 56 prompts about just copy-paste the syntax error that they have on the console, and they just put in a ChatGPT, and they get back the response and put back in the Jupyter notebook. So really, they do copy paste, and not really like we can imagine on explaining why the following code have an error, or really understand the error behind the syntax error and so on. Only to have some more problem-solving conception, but yes. So the question is really debugging is the way of problem solving. So it's one really question that we have to go further to see how we can really change a little bit the debugger, perhaps in a future work or in a further study. And just quickly, the conclusion, because I have been really slow, but for task performance, so we have seen that ChatGPT improved performance really on exercises independent of prior knowledge. For the learning, so for the post-test, simply using ChatGPT for the exercise really do not lead to improve learning, but dependently of the starting knowledge. So if they have low to mean, they have negative correlation with the student who use ChatGPT, but positive without using ChatGPT, sorry, for the learning. And we have seen that the usage is important to see if they are conceptual explorer, for example, understanding the code and the task, they perform better on the post-test than, for example, the debuggers. Practical developer asking just for the solution, they have on average for the performance compared to the other ChatGPT. And finally, debuggers, like we said, perhaps it's not, we have to rename the debuggers because it's not really debug, just copy paste the console. They have no improvement in post-test, but really significant difference in performance. So the conclusion would be, should improve a little bit this one to have better conceptual explorer in debugger and the usage. We have perhaps to scaffold better the debugger to avoid that they only copy paste the console and so on. So it was a little bit, that's my conclusion. Thank you for listening, and I'm open for any question.